was walking around the restaurant that I work at, and one of the regulars who comes in almost every day, he always asks me how many eggs today, because I tend to eat a good amount of eggs before I go to work. But I was like, oh, I only had 3, and I had a little bit of ground beef and a little bit of bread from the farmer's market. He was like, what kind of bread? And I was like, it's just a loaf. They said they only use 3 ingredients: olive oil, salt, and flour. And he was like, well, how do you know that they're not lying to you? And I was like, well, I don't know because I wasn't there when they made it. I just had to kind of trust in that. But I was like, I always feel good when I eat this bread. And for instance, like a few days ago, the past week, I got in a sourdough loaf from Whole Foods. If you look at the sourdough loaf for Whole Foods, like they have all these chemical preservatives in it to keep the bread lasting for longer. This bread that I buy at the farmer's market, by like day 3 or 4, it'll start to get stale because bread is really not supposed to stay like fresh for super, super long. We've just become so accustomed to bread being on the shelves, and then we take it home and it lasts a good while. But like natural bread doesn't stay, it doesn't stay fresh as long as we think it does. So I was like, when I eat that sourdough loaf, I felt bloated. I had bubble guts. I was like, so, I don't know. Like, you just gotta trust your intuition. And I always read that quote: "May you always be blessed with the clarity to know what is and what isn't meant for you." Like, your body speaks so loudly. So if you eat something and you feel bloated or fatigued, like that's your body's way. Your intuition is saying like, I'm not gonna die right now, but this wasn't my favorite thing. Or like these chemicals, I don't really agree with me. Because at the cellular level, then in the gut and everything, the bacteria have to go to war. One of the best books I ever read, Brain Maker by Dr. David Perlmutter. And while we're talking about bread, he also has a book called Grain Brain, which is actually the first book that I read if you want to learn about like gluten and gluten intolerances and how it affects how its effect is on mental health with certain bacteria, gut bacteria. Brain Maker and Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. So yeah, I was like, well, I don't know, but I just know how I feel. Like, I just know how I feel, and that's the most important thing. Like, that's the most important thing when it comes to your health. Like, yeah, maybe you want to lose some weight, maybe you want to gain some muscle, but at the end of the day, like, you could gain weight. I mean, you could lose weight and gain muscle and still feel like depressed in your mind, or still feel like foggy in your mental clarity. So what's the point of that, right? Like, don't you want to be mentally sharp? Like, so that's always been my number one thing, is like, I want to feel mentally sharp. I want to feel like I can remember things, because I work in a restaurant. I'm a server. So like, when my memory is not there, like, I'm forgetting stuff. I'm in the weeds. Not giving people the service that they came in for. And also, I'm just stressed and sweating, and life is hard, when you can't remember things. And if you go into the extreme category of memory issues, you run into the disease of Alzheimer's, dementia. Even as far as depression is concerned, Robert Sapolsky's book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, in depression, our amygdala presses down on the hippocampus, our memory center. So when we're experiencing depression or anxiety, our memory center gets suppressed. When we're experiencing the stress response in the body, memory center gets suppressed. So I like being able to remember things. I feel like, it's just an important part of who we are. Like, who are you without your memory? Like, if I ask you your name and you don't know your name, you don't know where your home is, it's like, like, I don't know, we have to have a memory. Memory center is also so tightly correlated with the cerebellum. The cerebellum, the little brain, in Latin, little brain, less than 10%, but of 50% or more of the total neurons. Motor coordination, balance. Cerebellum is connected to the hippocampal region. It's connected to the amygdala, this fight or flight response. It's connected to the frontal cortex, which is our ability to like think and reason and plan ahead. It's the part of the brain, the frontal cortex, where they say we don't develop to our mid-20s. So All of this is a matter of, do I stay in the stress response or do I come out of that? So that's why exercise always helps depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, dementia, right? Insulin sensitivity, light sensitivity, cerebellum. Don't sleep on her. You know, any type of motor coordination. So, like in a few of my videos, like a while ago, I haven't been juggling for you guys, but that's where I started learning about the cerebellum back in the day, when I was doing a speech on juggling and how this improved gray matter in the brain, which is motor coordination. Cerebellum is mostly gray matter. So it's so important. And then our muscle mass too, right, is our lifelong predictor of our health. Our muscle mass is, the cerebellum is responsible for our autonomic nervous system, our muscle tone at rest. So you want to be toned and keep your tone at rest. Focus on the cerebellum. And there's a lot of energy requirements for the brain. The brain is a very energy dense organ. 20 to 30% of the energy that it needs per day. So that's why I eat a lot of ground beef and eggs, because the nutrient density of these foods, the amino acid and fatty acid content of these foods is so high with like little waste products. Like the bioavailability of what you're eating there is like you're going to use a majority of that, and you're not just going to be like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like when you're on like a high vegan or like raw foods diet, stuff like that, there's a lot of waste product to be used. And then again, we don't have high quantities of certain amino acids, for instance, tryptophan. I always talk about tryptophan. Tryptophan breaks down to serotonin, breaks down to melatonin, and so may the cycle always continue in your favor. But yeah, I like the nutrient dense foods literally just because of the way it made me feel. Also, when I started to eat more animal protein, I had I say this all the time, sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I had a lot of skin issues going on. I had like dryness of my skin. I couldn't put like any type of like regular over the counter facial washes or like acne washes, like trying to do like a skincare routine. I would like flare up, my skin would flare up. So very sensitive. Sunscreens, regular sunscreens just flare up my skin. And so when I started to learn, I was like, why am I struggling with, dry knuckling of my skin, dryness of my face? Oh, I have a circulatory issue. The reason I have a circulatory issue is because I have a micronutrient issue. Oh, wait, so let me eat these animal-based proteins because they are high in micronutrients. Let me help my circulation. But for some whatever reason, I have found myself to be a little bit more sensitive than some other people, that I've known at my particular age. So once I accepted this and just started prioritizing the micronutrient intake, my skin improved so much. And, I just am still mind blown to this day when people tell me like, your skin looks so healthy and so strong, because our skin is our immune system. So back when I was struggling with the circulatory stuff that I was going through, I'm thinking about this correlation that I was having with the anxiety and the depression that I was feeling. And my immune system at the time was suppressed. I kept getting these upper respiratory infections, right? These little colds that would last like a few weeks. And like colds, like I can't tell you now, if I start to get symptoms of feeling like I have a cold, I will literally go eat my ground beef, I will eat my eggs, I will hydrate my body, drink water, go to sleep, and then the next day I wake up and I have no cold-like symptoms. And not to say that it's always like that, because, my body does its best and we're not immune to everything all the time. But like I don't get colds like that anymore, where they last like 2 to 3 weeks, or my nasal cavities, your ventricles in your brain are literally stopped up. Like, we want to keep the energy flowing. Keep the energy flowing, especially to the brain. Keeping this nasal passageway clear and cleansed to breathe through. Because we know that we release a lot of nitric oxide when we breathe through our nose. Breath by James Nestor. one of the most life-changing books I ever read. I would show it to you if I had it, but I don't. The difference between breathing through your mouth and breathing through your nose is tremendous. Don't sleep on it. One time, I'll never forget, I had this client who was, I used to train people. I used to try and help them out, and kind of retire from that a little bit. But one time, I told her, she was like, and I have to drink a glass of, like, when I get off from work, I get off really late, and I have to drink a glass of wine before I go to sleep. And I was like, do you snore when you sleep? And she was like, yes. And I wake up several times to go pee in the night. I was like, did you know that we're not actually built to snore and mouth breathe at night? And if we can train you to breathe through your nose, you'd probably sleep more soundly. And you would probably lose weight, you know, having nothing to do with working out, right? This is like the most passive thing. I was like, you should look into mouth taping. And this person like laughed at me. They said, I'm never going to try that. That sounds so stupid. And like, that was one of the reasons like why I was like, I think I want to stop doing this, because I feel like I can only help myself. But this is also why I'm here too. If you are struggling and you're not getting good sleep, like mouth taping, like consider it, look into it, read the book by Breath by James Nestor. You are the only one who can help yourself out of whatever predicament you're in. You could get the best nutrition advice, right? You could do the best workouts, but if you have these mechanical issues and you're just missing these easy bases, like it's like you hit a home run, but you forgot to step on first base. So everything that you did, it doesn't count, you know? Tape your mouth shut. Go out into the sun. Build your vitamin D. Breathe through your nose. Like, this is so much easier than doing a 2-hour workout and making yourself ground beef and eggs, but it's still all helpful. And when you combine all these habits, it's like you are a superfood. You are a body mechanic. And you'd be so surprised how your body changes, how your skin changes, your libido changes, right? Like, all these things are connected. It's so beautiful, you know? So anyway, I'm going to leave this here. I love you so much. I'm looking at this quote, and it says, you must see through your spiritual eyes. You must see through your spiritual eyes. You know, what that means to me is that things are not always what they seem on the surface. You know, a lot of times, like, there might be a certain situation, like even at work, I'm just thinking about at work, and maybe you can relate to this. There might be a situation that really irks you, and you might want to come outside of yourself and, you know, get angry about it or ask questions why. And sometimes all the situation needs is for you to be like, what part am I playing in this? And sometimes, yeah, like you're in your own peace. You are solidly in your own peace. Like, sometimes the wave, you're just meant to stand there and let the wave crash against you and not react. And sometimes it's hard to do that. But like, the world's a better place when you don't mirror the intensity of others. Sometimes just like you're meant to be exactly what that is. Like, you are solid, let the wave crash against you, and like let the chaos end with you instead of continuing it, you know? You know, it's so beautiful. You're so beautiful. I just gotta say it. So anyway, I hope that you got something from this video. You can like, share, and subscribe, of course, as always. But I do wish you the best of luck.